Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Industrial Efficiency 2020. My name is Agneta Persson, and I'm the eceee President, and I work as the Managing Director at Anthesis Sweden. We are providing knowledge and evidence-based information and have an information exchange based on eceee's work. And I don't see the slides. Thank you. So, welcome to this event. This is a very important event, and energy efficiency is a very key topic for all of us. Next slide, please. eceee is Europe's largest energy efficiency NGO, and we have now been in operation for 25 years and providing evidence-based knowledge and information. We are an association with members from all sectors, private, public, research, NGOs, and we have both individuals and organizations as members. The first eceee summer study was held in 1993, and the aim was to generate and exchange evidence-based knowledge on energy efficiency, and that is still our aim to do so. Our summer studies have grown to gather 400 people for 5 full days, and in 2012 we held our first dedicated industrial efficiency event. And we had planned to have an industrial efficiency event in Gothenburg this year, but Corona struck. Next. And we still need to put an effort in having energy efficiency as the first principle, the key principle. Even in times of decarbonization, that is really important. And we can only reach the global goals if we have a drastic reduction in energy demand. That will allow an affordable and manageable transition to a global energy system based on renewables. It will allow us to meet sustainable development goals, and it will pave the way for decarbonization. Next. Why do we have a dedicated industrial efficiency event? Well, according to the International Energy Agency, industry accounts for 1/3 of the global final energy use. 21% of the direct greenhouse gas emissions, not accounting for indirect emissions from industry's electricity use, comes from industry. And we needed a European event where experts from various sectors can meet and discuss industrial efficiency. This conference is a mix of peer-reviewed papers and extended abstracts, and it's covering all aspects you can think of when it comes to energy efficiency in industry. It's technology, finance, policy, energy management, and everything you can think of. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can I have it? Thank you. So I would like to thank all our panel leaders. They manage 6 panels with 96 presentations, and you will be hearing from them over the next couple of days here. And these people have been doing a lot of work already. They have been reviewing the peer-reviewed papers, they have been coordinating, and they have been planning the sessions. So there's a lot of effort being put into this event already from all these people. So a big thank you to all of you already now, and I'm sure this will be a successful event with all the work you've put in. Next slide, please. We also would like to highlight the great side events that we are going to have on this conference. Tomorrow we will have a side event organized by the Swedish Energy Agency. On Wednesday, there will be a side event organized by Info Climate. And on Thursday, we will have a side event organized by ENR Industry Working Group. And all these side events will generate a lot of new ideas and a lot of great insights to listen to and to participate in the discussions with. Next slide, please. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to give you a pre-information on the summer study next year. So that our 2021 summer study is planned for in France, and we would love to see you joining us in June, the 14th to 19th in the south of France, and we will be publishing the call for papers soon. So have an eye out for that, and please put it into your diary already now that you are planning to be in June in France in June. Next slide, please. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, and I would like you to enjoy the conference. And in the next slides, we will see the name of the sponsors. So please, next. So this is the official opening of Industrial Efficiency 2020, and I really hope that you will be enjoying it and that you will get a lot of insights and new knowledge by participating, and that you will be sharing knowledge with each other, and that we will together create new knowledge and new actions spurred from that. So I really hope that you will have a good couple of days here with us and listen to all the interesting presentations. We will now have some very interesting presentations. We will start by Maria Grahn from Chalmers University of Technology. After that, we will have a presentation by Hugo Salamanca from International Energy Agency. After that, we will have a presentation by Peter Handley from the European Commission, from DG GROW. And finally, a presentation by Joacim Fogelström, who is director at SKF. And after that, we will have questions and answers and discussions led by Hanna Tornevall from Chalmers. So I welcome Maria Grahn to give us an introduction to Gothenburg.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. It's a nice introduction. So I also have some slides, so I can have the slides up, please. So I have the honor to welcome you all to Sweden and Gothenburg. And since I'm the director of a collaboration platform at Chalmers University of Technology, I will also welcome you to Chalmers. So you are now in Sweden, in Gothenburg, and at Chalmers. So welcome. So in the first slide, I just show you some pictures from the icy period. In the middle of Gothenburg, we have, when it is weather for it, a skating area. And you can, of course, go out in the archipelago just to see the beautiful nature in Gothenburg. So I go here and try to change slides myself and see what happens. I think I should have patience, but I'm not sure it works. I go one more. No, I think I need help with changing the slides. Yes, thank you. I will go for that. So I'll say when I want to change slides. Thank you so much. When I'm talking about collaboration and collaboration opportunities, it is a really important insight that I think you're all aware of, but I will point it out again, that it's no single actor that can solve the complex problems in the world on its own. And I typically think of complex problems of those cannot be solved by putting one solution to the problem. As soon as you put one solution to the problem change. So if you have a solution for, I sometimes have the example of transport. We have to decrease CO2 emissions from the transport sector, and then we introduce maybe electric vehicles, and electric vehicles is one solution. And then comes the issues that we have to think about the batteries and how to solve other problems. So complex problems, as changing the entire energy system and the industrial part of the system, it's always something that we need to do in collaboration, looking at the problem together and then make it possible to find a better solution. So next slide, please. So when you are here in Gothenburg now, I will give you some examples of how we collaborate here in Gothenburg and Chalmers. So at the Gothenburg region, we have a great experience of collaboration between academy and business. And I will start from the top of this slide. So every fifth employee work in international company. One of the most expansive region in Europe and a hotbed for innovation and entrepreneurship. Global and knowledge intensive manufacturing companies. We have Volvo, both the Volvo Cars and Volvo Group here, SKF, AstraZeneca, etc. And in Gothenburg we have experts, Ryzen, significant in the last 10 years, and about 1 million inhabitants. Swedish best logistic location. And from the R&D, 32% of R&D investments by private sector in Sweden. Swedish companies are made here. And for the student and for the academy, we have 60,000 students, where the most of them are at Gothenburg University, but approximately 10,000 at Chalmers. And we will increase that now in this post-corona time when a lot of already workers need to develop their own skills, maybe. So we have a test bed, I would say, a possibility of making collaboration activities, and we are utilizing that. So next slide, please. So from welcome you to Chalmers, I would like to give you some background. Conducts research and offers education in engineering, natural sciences, shipping and architecture. Founded in 1829, and we're doing research in close collaboration with industry and public sector. Competence development for working professionals, as I mentioned before. So next slide. And for the campus areas, we have 3 campuses, Johanneberg, Lindholmen, and as you can see, these big spacious areas here, that's from Onsala Space Observatory. That's also one part of Chalmers. So in addition to research, study and office facilities, our campuses also include 80 startups and companies, where we have an environment that facilitates collaboration and entrepreneurships. And I will give you 2 examples of collaboration activities that we are proud of. So next slide. We have a research center on artificial intelligence. So this Chalmers AI Research Center chair, it is a consortium that have 5 strategic partners. So we have a collaboration here focusing on transport, life science and health, engineering, automation and Internet of Things and smart networks with the partners Sevt Eriksson, Sahlgrenska University Hospital, Volvo Cars and Volvo Group. So a lot of collaboration, and that is absolutely needed in this area of AI when we are in the phase of learning. So next slide. And in the energy field, I would like to highlight the collaboration initiative that we have called FED. So that's Fossil-Free Energy Districts. And that is an innovative effort by the city of Gothenburg to decrease the use of energy and the dependence on fossil fuels in built environment. And that is a unique local marketplace for electricity, district heating, cooling, and that is developed together with 9 partners: City of Gothenburg, Johanneberg Science Park, Göteborg Energi, Business Region Göteborg Ericsson, and there's a Research Institute of Sweden, RISE, Akademiska Hus, which is the building company here on campus, and Chalmers as well. And that is the solar panels richest area now in Gothenburg, in this campus and this part of the Gothenburg city. And next slide. One other aspects of this collaboration, we have at Chalmers invitations for different actors around what we have, well, lunch seminars, and you can see for the picture that this picture is taken before the Corona time. We wouldn't fit in that many in this room in these days now. But we have it's a great opportunity for industry and business and public sector to join and discuss important questions in this area of complex issues. So next slide. I just wanted to show how we are managing nowadays in the Corona time when we have these meeting arenas. But the advantages of going into the virtual possibility of these lunch seminars is that we can invite people from all places around the world to participate, which is an enormous expansion. Also, the number of participants has increased when we are going in the webinar forum. So we have here in the corner from the Swedish governmental, she took the opportunity to just join the panel between 2 meetings in Stockholm, and that would never have been possible for her to attend in Gothenburg in real life when we had the well, pre-Corona type of lunch seminars. So next slide. So this is the last slide. So I just show you one of these more of an organization slide of how Chalmers is organized to meet the societal challenges. And we are, of course, focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals and how to meet them. And to do that, we have divided Chalmers into departments. So the departments are in the blue circle on the like a cake here in the middle, and then around all these departments we have a matrix of the area of advance, where I'm the director of energy area advance, but we also have this the area advance in ICT and material science and production, transport, health engineering, and excellence initiative on nano, like 2D tech graphene center. So these platforms and also the yellow arrow focusing on the education part. So we work together and we collaborate in order to meet these big societal challenges. So next slide. The final, just saying that there were some examples on how academy and business can work together, and this conference will of course explore many more possibilities. So from me, I just want to say enjoy the conference, and that we hope to arrange it physically in Gothenburg next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maria. Excellent. And do we have any questions for Maria?
No, there are no questions currently in the chat. So,
okay, so it was crystal clear. Thank you very much, Maria. When we hand over the word and the floor to Hugo Salamanca from the International Energy Agency and to discuss industrial energy efficiency and review of trends and policy progress. Over to you, Hugo. Very much.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Hugo Salamanca. I work here at the IEA, the Energy Efficiency Division. Let's see if this works. Perfect. So today I'll be trying to present a lot of content and mainly the recent work that has been carried out by the IEA in these crucial times in terms of energy efficiency, recovery, and industrial progress. Be focusing on some of the recent trends, and we will be presenting some of the guidelines and recommendations that we have for policymakers and energy professionals. So one of the first trends that we have been already mentioning is that industrial energy use has been growing over the last decades, almost being multiplied by 2 in the last 30 years, and taking a crucial part of energy demand globally. In Europe and the UK, this trend has been going the other way, with industrial energy demand taking a smaller role every year. So coming back, we see that globally, the major sectors are petrochemicals, iron and steel, and the less energy intensive sectors. So that's the light blue. In Europe, we see that petrochemicals is still the largest energy user, followed by smaller or other industries. In terms of in terms of CO2 emissions, we see that globally the trend is the same. We see an almost doubling of CO2 emissions, emission by the industry over the last 30 years. However, we see an interesting part in Europe is that energy efficiency has allowed major savings in terms of emissions to be done over the last 18 years, with 255 megatons of CO2 being saved. So key message is that CO2 is exploding from the industry globally, but in Europe, this energy efficiency has been able to offset some of the increase. So now turning to COVID. So COVID has had a major impact, as we know, on the energy sector and the energy demand, something that has not seen in the last 70 years. We see that we are expecting in 2020 energy demand to be reduced by the combined energy use of Germany, France, Italy, and the UK. Of course, we know that this is due to decreases in activity and not structural changes. So it will be key to keep an eye on the rebound, and we'll be focusing on that a bit later in the presentation. In terms of CO2, we see that this 8% of decrease that we're expecting in 2020 is a major decrease, not seen in our recent past, except for major catastrophes such as wars or big depressions. Of course, as I was saying, the rebound is something that should be taken into account when we look at the way ahead, as what happened in 2008 showed. Sorry, so there are, okay. Investment has also been impacted in the energy sector, mainly in oil and gas. We're expecting a 20% decrease overall, and energy efficiency should be impacted as well due to less car sales, less industrial activity, and of course, less construction. So the IEA facing these challenges has been working to put together a sustainable recovery plan to meet the major challenges that governments are facing. What the sustainable recovery shows is that it is possible to have a combined approach that will boost the economies, that will create jobs while creating a more sustainable future and more resilient. Of course, this will require investment, $1 trillion per year. So that's a lot of zeros, but keep in mind that this is not even 1% of global GDP. So the recovery plan is focused on only cost-effective solutions and measures and is concentrated in the next 3 years. So really providing the key analyses that governments and policymakers need in these crucial times to develop a sustainable future. So we see that we're facing a major opportunity per se, with CO2 emissions being drastically reduced this year. Of course, as I was mentioning, this is not due to a structural change, but just decreases in activity. And the choices that we make today will determine if we will see a rebound that will get us on the trend that we were seeing before the COVID, or if we opt for a more sustainable future that will allow us to meet the climate targets in the future. Another key aspect of the work that was carried out this year on the recovery plan is the data sets and analysis on jobs on the energy field. This has allowed us to not only estimate the number of jobs that will be at risk. So we estimate that 3 million jobs have been lost since the pandemic began, and 3 million more are at risk in the near future. However, as I was saying, this new analysis allows us to determine how many jobs will be created if we follow these cost-effective sustainable recovery plan. And the figures that we have been putting together shows that there is 9 million jobs to be created every year for the next 3 years under this recovery plan. Of course, industry will play a major role in manufacturing and energy efficiency improvements. So I'll be going fast on this slide. This is just to provide key analysis and data on how this analysis was built, mainly giving the ratios of the number of jobs that can be created by $1 million invested in the different sectors. Happy to come back to it if you have any questions. For the sake of time, it was just to show you the different data that is available in the report for you to use and analyze. In terms of reaching, so this is going to the energy technology perspectives. The second work that was just released last week by our teams. We see that if we are to reach net zero target by 2070, we will need to be using all dimensions that we can, not only focusing on improving the power sector, but also targeting the industry. This will be crucial. As we see, one of the main challenges that industry faces is the lifetime of assets. Focusing on iron and steel, we see that one of the most CO2 intensive sectors or process routes in terms of iron and steel production is the blast furnaces and direct reduction iron furnaces. And we see that 50% of the assets are based in the Middle East, and well, mainly China and the Middle East. These are 12 years old, so quite new. Another focus that I wanted to present is the lifetime, or the age, sorry, of the assets in the petrochemical sector. We see also quite young park in this field. It is to remember that life cycle for investment is around 25 years, and governments should have that in mind for the next window of investment, so as to be able to refurbish these key sectors. Have to remember that CO2 emissions by the iron and steel represent 7% of global emissions, cement likewise, and petrochemicals around 4%. So these are major sectors, major opportunities to be made every time investment is planned, or every time there is retrofits of plants to be done. Focusing on the technology, it is presented as one of the most optimistic dimensions. However, we want to focus that the analysis shows that if we are to reach net zero by 2070, 1/3 of the emission savings will be coming from technology that is not yet commercially available. If we try to go even faster and reach the net zero by 2050 in the industry, we see that almost half of the CO2 emissions savings will come from energy that is not yet commercially available. And looking even more closely to heavy industry, we see that the 3/3 of these emission savings would come from technology that is not readily available. So this is to say that technology, unfortunately, is not something that we can rely too much on at the moment. We should be focusing on the technology that is currently available, the cost-effective measures, as we were saying, and of course, use all dimensions that we can use. This means that not only energy efficiency should be put to use, but also material efficiency. Material efficiency is a term that we use to gather measures such as recycling, reusing, extending the lifetime of our goods, for example, buildings, designing them so as to lower the demand in basic materials, in particular cement and iron and steel, as we were saying. Of course, switching to alternative fuels and promoting innovation. Again, if we are to reach the sustainable development goals, we will need all the resource that is available today. In order to unlock those potential, the recommended approach, the one that we think has had positive results and successful approaches, is to have a package approach, what we call the policy package. So for the industry, this would mean having a regulatory basis, so something that pushes energy efficiency improvements, such as energy management systems implementations. This will, of course, rely on information to monitor progress. So have a component that would require data to be shared with policymakers from the industry. And finally, the incentives to do so. So financial grants, skills, capacity training, as such. Even though we have been mentioning—
2 more minutes, Hugo.
Thank you. I'm good. So yes, sorry. So yes, even though we have been mentioning the heavy industry, something that I wanted to highlight is that most of the savings will come from less energy-intensive sector. 70% of savings under our efficient world scenario, which is in line with previous scenarios that I've mentioned, will focus on implementing the cost-effective measures. Again, this is only cost-effective measures with existing technology. This is what we have at hand and we should be focusing on. So 70% of savings in the less energy-intensive sectors. Also remembering that these sectors are very job-intensive. Huge opportunities on this side. So this is the policy package to unlock the potential. Another aspect, dimension that we at the IEA have been promoting is international approach. I wanted to present this initiative led by Japan under the G20 presidency 2 years ago, which is the development of benchmarking for the heavy industry, so as to be able to show the different performance levels, so as to share best practices across major economies. Of course, also allow countries to set adequate targets. So we're trying to develop this work for the heavy industry. So these are iron and steel, aluminum, pulp and paper, petrochemicals, and cement. Another key initiative that I wanted to highlight, and I will end with this, is the Global Commission on Urgent Action for Energy Efficiency. This is an initiative that is maybe the first globally that has brought together 23 policy makers, policy leaders from all horizons, all continents, to make sure that energy efficiency has the momentum and is in the agenda of all governments at the moment. The recommendations were published in the last month, focusing on how to scale quickly the actions, how to ensure behavior change and address population needs in crucial times. Finally, I wanted to also mention that this work is available to all of our audience that would like more details, and I will be happy, of course, to answer any questions during the
Thank you very much, Hugo. Very good presentation of this package. So what is the most important prerequisites for creating the 9 million jobs you were mentioning from the recovery plan?
So
the most important actions that is needed to create the 9 million jobs from the recovery you mentioned for the recovery plan.
Yes. So one of the main options, solutions that we have at hand, in particular in the European background, is building retrofits. This is highly intensive in job creation. Of course, it's local jobs. It's improving the insulation of buildings, improving the windows, etc. This is extremely cost effective in terms of investment. Will reduce the energy bill for consumer, allowing them to have, of of course, more resources for basic needs such as health, food, etc. So if I were to choose and recommend something at the moment is, of course, retrofits for buildings. Also, it will lower the demand for basic materials. I was saying for new buildings in terms of cement, iron and steel, etc. So retrofit buildings for places where most of the buildings have been built. The demand in terms of population in Europe will not be growing dramatically as in other countries such as Africa or India. So in Europe, retrofits for buildings.
Thank you. Clemens, do we have any other questions for Hugo?
Yes, we have several questions in the session Q&A and also in the chat, and I will just start with the first ones we had. That there's a question whether the plans for sustainable recovery include regional differentiation, and if they are regionally differentiated, which are the most relevant regions for the sustainable recovery, or have you identified within the IEA example regions to highlight different sorts of strategies which could be applied? So that's the first question. I will just ask the second one. It's a more technical one, and how did you measure the age structure of the blast furnaces? Our participant has the impression that the stock is rather older than you highlighted in your slides, especially in Europe. But yeah, perhaps if we start with those two.
Okay. So yes, the analysis that was carried out for the job creation does have regional data. And focuses on the differences between, of course, emerging economies and emerging economies. One of the slides was trying to present that. I went a bit fast on it, but the report is free to download for any participant that wants more details on how the calculation was done. But keep in mind that, yes, we do have a regional approach. For the specificities, as I was saying, it's not the same to target energy efficiency in emerging economies where most of the infrastructure has to be built compared to European or industrialized countries where what should be focused on is improving the assets that we already have. So that's on the first question. On the second one, on the more technical, let's say, a collection of data on the age. So his question was on the fact that we are a bit optimistic on the age of the park. Well, I don't know how to respond to this. Of course, we have to have a very, let's say, approximative approach in terms of sampling and then collecting the data in countries. Maybe sometimes where it's not as easy to collect, of course, China. We do proceed with regional experts and data sources, but of course, happy to get more precise data if participants are happy to share that with us. Happy to collect any indicative corrections.
Excellent. Any further questions, Clemens?
There are further questions. One is more a comment, but the other one might be related. So we have one comment that there's a disagreement that the most energy efficiency projects will be in less energy intensive industries. As the example of Sweden is mentioned, that there 90% of the industrial energy use is in energy intensive industries. So a major part of the energy efficiency, perhaps not in terms of numbers, but in terms of savings, will happen in the energy intensive industries. And yeah, there is also the mention that the major part of the savings is from other industries and so light industries and so on. Is that mainly SMEs or is that or smaller companies, or because that would pose major challenges, obviously, to mobilize the huge number of companies? So perhaps if you can elaborate on that context a bit.
Sure. So it's a good question. It's a good way to present things. So I went a bit fast. So just to give a precision, these estimates, the 70% that I showed, are based on a model that is called the efficient world scenario. This focuses on the cost-effective measures. Okay, so it's focusing on cost-effective measures. This means that we are maybe leaving aside some of the most investment-intensive measures that were happening in the energy-intensive sector, such as changing furnace. We are, so in the less energy intensive sectors, we are estimating how much would be saved if you change electric motors and you step them up to the higher grades of efficiency, i.e. 4 instead of i.e. 0, etc. So we based this analysis on what we think is the current level, how much we could upgrade it, and where would those upgrades have the most significant impact. Also to keep in mind that, yes, it's true that most of the less energy intensive sectors, so again, energy intensive is considered by GVA produced divided by the energy demand. So for example, these sectors have not yet considered energy as a vector of competitiveness, because it's a very small amount of the product they sell. For example, 1 ton of cheese is much more expensive than 1 ton of crude iron. Of course, it requires much less energy as well. So cheese has not seen energy as one vector of competitiveness. So what we're saying is that these less energy intensive sectors should be focusing on energy. The SMEs is also one of the particular challenges that we face. Of course, they have less resources in terms of skills and of course financial attributes. But all this is based on this model that says that this is cost effective. And to give you just one estimate is that for $1 invested in improving electric motor driven systems, $1 invested, you will be saving $7 in energy demand over the lifetime of the equipment. This is just amazing, the savings and the gains that can be done in the industry in very simple measures such as energy management systems, electric motors. Of course, we've been saying that for the last 5 years.
And we'll continue to say that for the next years, but we are going to change and make those changes, aren't we? So thank you very much, Hugo. We will now continue with a presentation from Peter Handley at DG GROW at the European Commission. And Peter will be talking about industrial efficiency in the energy intensive industry ecosystem. So welcome, Peter. Yes. Thank you very much, Peter, for the very interesting presentation. We suffered from the poor audio quality, but it was a very interesting content, and we really are looking forward to hear more from you on this when we have a better audio quality. And I really like the combination of a green, digital and resilient, and that's what we really need to focus on to continue our strives for a more energy efficient world. So I don't think we can have any questions and answers for you for the time being, Peter, due to the audio quality, but we'll try to solve it, and maybe we can come back to you after the next presentation. So thank you once again, and we'll hand over to Joacim Fogelström, who's Director Actuation and Automation Control at SKF, and he will tell us about SKF Care and the sustainability journey of SKF. So over to you, Joacim.
Thank you very much for the invitation here, and let's see if I can get the presentation up. My name is then Joacim Fogelström, responsible, among other things, for quality and EHS on the SKF group. And SKF is the world leader in rolling bearings and solution around the rotating shaft. So if you look on the SKF Care and our sustainability framework, I wanted to, let's see if, yes, an old ad here from 1910 to show that this is part of SKF DNA to reduce energy consumption. This is comparing the traditional journal bearing with a new innovation at that time, then more than 100 years ago, the self-aligning ball bearing, and then how much wood you could save by then using the SKF product. So this is part of our DNA, has always been reducing friction, energy consumption. If we then look on the SKF Care and our, let's see, will this work or not? Yes. Our sustainability framework, we basically have divided that up in 4 areas. The business care perspective, it's about our customers, financial performance and shareholder return, and then the highest standard of ethical behavior. When we look on the employee care perspective, it's about the safe working environment, promoting health, education and well-being of our employees. and through the full supply chain, also with our suppliers and customers. And the environmental care perspective is about continuously then reducing the environmental impact from the group's operation then, as well as with our customers. And then the community care is about making positive contribution to the communities in which the SKF group then operates. So that is, so to say, the framework. And then if you look on how we are doing it then, we try then to integrate the SKF care with the business we make with our customers, like customers buying for renewable energy, our bearings, process efficiency with our customers, the rotating equipment performance, how we can make that more efficient for our customers, and also new businesses like electrification there, where we support our customers to make new solutions. And also the way we do the business then. We have safe workspaces, work with anti-corruption, energy and emission, then work on that, and also responsible sourcing. So that is how we all integrated together. And now I will talk a little bit about how we work then on the way we make our business then, make sure that we really make it happens. We have heard a lot of presentations here today about the strategies and so on, but we are actually doing it as well in our industry then, in the daily life then. And if you look then on SKF Climate Objectives 2025, on the raw material and our suppliers, we have then already more than 83% of our energy intensive suppliers then certified according to ISO 50001, the energy certificate then. And that work is continuing. On the manufacturing, we have a target then to reduce the CO2 emission 40% until 2025, and there we are already now up to minus 36%. The area we struggle with is goods transportation. We have a target there minus 40, but so far it's just a few percent we have managed, and that is perhaps part of the challenge we see here. There are no real other solutions today. And when we look on our customer solution, then is to support our customers to reduce their CO2 emission. And if you look then on our sales to that kind of industries today, it's around 5.1 billion SEK, and it is increasing as these industries also are growing. And if you look on the performance, what can we really see that we have done here? The revenue from 2006 has gone up 61%. The energy use has actually gone down 17%. So exactly what you saw in the previous presentations are actually happening. And then by compensating, buying green energy, we have been able then to reduce the CO2 emissions further down to minus 36%. But we are not happy with that. We are taking the next step, and we have already done 2 of our manufacturing units, one in Tudela, Spain, and one in Steyr, Austria, that already are carbon neutral. That has been done by energy efficiency, reducing the consumption of energy, but also then to use solar, wind power, and hydropower to electrify these factories then. I think that's a very good step. And with that as a background, we have now taken the, so to say, challenge to say that all SKF manufacturing then should be carbon neutral 2030. It's a big undertaking, and we start with our own manufacturing, even if we then in the next step also will work through the full value chain then. So I think this is a very interesting target, but we have shown in some of our units that it's possible to achieve them. And this is a picture just to show where is, so to say, during the life cycle of our products through our suppliers, our own manufacturing, goods transportation, when our products are used by our customers, and also end of life, recycling or refurbishment of our products, and where the consumption of energy is, and also the CO2 emissions. So we start with our own manufacturing, but of course we are working also through the full value chain to make sure that we optimize there as well. And what are we doing then to make this happen, so to say, carbon neutral 2030? Energy efficiency, and that is a lot of activities ongoing there. We also make sure that we have material efficiency, utilize the material in the most efficient way, reduce waste, and also quality to reduce scrap, so that what we do is so to say, zero defect already from the beginning, so we don't need any rework or scrap. And then as compensation on the energy, then we use then low carbon energy or renewable energy to come to this zero target then. And one very interesting activity we had during last year, 2019, let's see if should switch the slide here, was that we actually then, going down to zero, you see it here. SKF was actually last year one of the first multinational company to issue a green bond, and that was 300 million euro, duration 10 years. It was heavily oversubscribed, so I mean we have the opportunity to give out more, and that is actually to make sure that we get finance to make these changes reality, make them happen then. And what we will use the money for is to have energy efficient investments, to renew our manufacturing as discussed in the previous presentation, and to make sure that we use the most energy efficient machines and solutions producing our products. But we also then invest in sort of manufacturing capacity for renewable energy, especially wind, but also for electrical vehicles, etc. And we also invest in clean tech production capacity and R&D. And we did there an acquisition also 2 years ago in Recond Oil, a company then cleaning oil. So instead of, so to say, putting that on destruction, we can then reuse the oil in a good way, both in our own manufacturing but also with our customers. And then if you take the next, the business we make, products and services, and also sustainable supply chain, what can we do there in SKF? And if we look on the SKF strategy, our vision, mission, a world of reliable rotation, the undisputed leader in the bearing business, and then we basically have two value propositions, the products we are selling, but also the solution around the rotating equipment to make that work in the most efficient way. And that we have added here is the striving for green, how we both improve, as we said before, our own manufacturing, our suppliers, and also with our customers. And then as a focus area, we have also here added clean tech, where we invest then in new technologies and new acquisitions in that area. And then enabling the green industries, I mentioned it before, but we are the main supplier to renewable energy, wind. We also work with wave energy, etc., because these equipments are full of bearings and rotating equipment. So we are working on solutions for that. We are the main supplier to electrical vehicles because that is completely new technology around the bearings to make the driveline there to work. And we are main supplier to the main players there today. And also railway, we are the main supplier, especially then for the high-speed trains that will make long distance communication possible. And then when we look on the rotating equipment's performance and sustainability, we have our bearings, the asset. We have our knowledge in how to lubricate them. We can then optimize the performance of the bearings, but also then minimize the amount of oil needed and also how you clean the oil when it's being used. By having remote monitoring, we can also listen to how you should run your machine, how the bearings are performing, and we are working there on data analytics and machine learning, both for ourselves but also for our customers, how to use it. And then we have application engineering to see if there are improvements needed and see how we can then support our customers. And then end of life, we can then judge with the information we have collected, can these bearings products be remanufactured and used again, and thereby having energy reduction and also cost improvements, or should they be scrapped and remelted and be used again. And then with our supply chain 4.0, we also see how to optimize the transportation and supply to our customers here in a good way to not disturb their production. And by that, having energy efficiency and also reduce CO2 emissions down. And this is the way we are working going forward, and we see it's very much appreciated by our customers. And here is just one example there on a Swedish paper mill, where we have implemented this rotating equipment performance contract with this paper mill. And what we see is then increased efficiency, reduce the number of unplanned stops, but also then that we have improved the way of lubricate and run the machines. So the result already after a very short period, we can see that there is a reduction of water consumption with 35%. We have reduced the energy consumption overall in this equipment with 25% and 80% of the oil needed. So by working close to our customers, we make this possible. And I think this is a very interesting trend going forward, going hand in hand with the message and presentations in the previous presentations here today. So this is really the SKF Care and our sustainability framework, focusing on our employees, community, environment, and the business we are making, and integrate that in daily life. That is part of how we make our business. It's nothing add-on the side. This is integrated directly into the way SKF is doing business today and also going forward. So we hope that we also can contribute to the targets you have set up here overall. So thank you a lot. Any questions on that?
Thank you very much, Joacim, for presenting your impressive work. It's really interesting to hear how you are working both internally with your own energy demand and also helping your customers. Have you been doing any kind of calculations of the value of a positive side effects of a multiple benefits, like the reduced interruption in the products for the paper mill you were talking about, or indoor air, improved indoor air quality or so in your own premises?
I mean, with the customers, that is part of the business proposal. We look on how much downtime, so to say, is prevented. So that is part of the business idea.
And then you calculate that in monetary terms?
Absolutely, yes. That is what we are doing now. And that is also why we can get paid, because of course when you have a very good operation, you have less breakdowns and less failed bearings. So in one way, we should say working against ourselves, but that is what we have to do. We have to help our customers.
Very impressive. Clemens, do we have any questions for you, Joacim?
Yes, we have one, but I fear a little bit that this question will take another half an hour to answer.
Okay, so when
I will ask it anyway, and perhaps you can make a short
comment. I will make a short version.
And the question is as easy as, can you quantify the emission intensity of your products, and what would be a suitable target for the whole value chain?
I mean, we have it per basically kilo bearing. I mean, that we have those figures calculated, of course, we have it. And as I said, with a target to be carbon neutral, to say in our own manufacturing in 30 years, to 2030, I mean, we have activities there, and some of our manufacturing units, as I said, are already then carbon neutral, so to say, and that work is ongoing. So you can say, yes, it's ongoing, but of course, before we have worked all the full supply chain through and have also our suppliers, because it is very much steel that we are working here, so that we also are dependent on our suppliers, that they can change their technology and so on. Otherwise, it will not happen. But yes, we have those numbers calculated and follow it closely, so to say. So that is the short version for that.
Thank you very much. So I think I'll just hand over to Hanna Tornevall now to have the questions and answer discussions with all of the presenters, and Clemens, you will continue to help out. So over to Hanna to lead the discussions.
Thank you, Agneta. And thank you to all speakers for very interesting presentations. And to the audience and the participants, please write your questions, and Clemens will follow them, and hopefully you will get your answer. But while you're writing your questions, I will start off with a question to Hugo. And that is really, you talked about the policy package, and it seemed really impressive that you were developing. But what is the most important thing to do now, and how do you work to get different countries to change their policies?
So the most important thing to do again is to keep in mind that it's not a single policy. So that's the idea behind the policy package, is to keep in mind that it's not a single policy that will help the world, but to create an ecosystem of the different measures that will, touch different actors, improve change in behaviors, etc. I mean, both for the consumers, but also from the private sector. So the policy package tries to convey this idea that we should be relying on three main pillars. So as I was saying, regulation, so as to create a push, incentives as to, of course, create a pull, and information, the counterpart is to be able to monitor progress. So that's kind of the idea. Now, what should we be doing today to improve energy efficiency, to restart the economy, and to, of course, create jobs? There are, as I was saying, main drivers for that. Retrofits, again, sorry to repeat myself, retrofits is a key action that industrial countries should be focusing on. For the emerging economies, for the most, the countries where infrastructure is being developed, key actions should focus on MEPS, so minimum energy performance standards for appliances, building codes for the buildings that will be built to meet the urbanization. Of course, having approach for cities to promote other sources of transportation and such. So these are the key drivers. They rely on high intensity in job creation activities, so retrofits, buildings, construction, etc. They bring economic development. They go along with economic development. On the industry, one key policy framework that I like to highlight is the PAT scheme, so the Performance, Achieve and Trade system that exists in India for the industry. So it sets targets by subsector in the industry. So targets in terms of energy efficiency. For the overperforming participants, they are able to sell those extra savings, if I may say, under the format of white certificates in a market-based approach. So we have kind of an illustration of what a policy package can look like in its design, with a regulatory aspect, so the target setting by subsector, the incentives with the market pool, you can sell extra savings that you make, and of course they have a tracking of the savings every year, every cycle. PAT functions by cycles. Every 2-3 years. Targets are reset for sectors.
Yeah, thank you. And Joacim, you represent industry here. Is there any specific set of policies you would like to hear or get from the government to make the work you do to continue or even enhance it?
But as we are, SKF has a lot of this kind of solution for the customers. And of course, we are helped very much when there are regulations, because then it gets it's done, so to say, on free will. I mean, that is always a slow process. So I mean, we support it very much then. And we see already, I mean, from the automotive industries, that such policies already start to be influencing. They ask us to be sort of CO2 neutral in our manufacturing, but also on our products. I mean, they are very much focusing on this. So I think we are, in the industry, we are very much supported by that, at least our type of industry.
Yeah, interesting. So Clemens, do we have any questions now?
Yeah, we have a very interesting question. Actually, it's inside the panel, so it's from Hugo to Joacim. So the question whether the COVID actually impacted SKF's plan to somehow improve energy efficiency or to decarbonize, or if priorities within the companies have a bit shifted away from that and been shifted towards business recovery more than environmental.
It's a very interesting question then, and you believe perhaps that then you so to say slow down, but actually it's the other way around. You realize to be competitive you have to speed up, so it's even more focused now on, so to say, world-class manufacturing, new energy efficient machines and so on, as you say, replacing old-fashioned machines, technologies with new machines. So I would say no, we are actually speeding up now. If we don't do that, we are dead.
Yeah. I guess it's the same for all in industry right now. It's a really competitive environment right now. Do we have any other question, Clemens?
Yes, we have one which is again targeted at SKF. So Joacim again, regarding environmental certifications used at SKF. So do you use ISO 50001? For sure, I think so. But you can perhaps confirm, or Blue Angel or other certificates for your products.
No, I mean we used 50001, the energy certificate, both internally for SKF, but also then we work with our suppliers. I mean, we have a plan there for our most energy efficient, heavy suppliers. Then that if they don't do the ISO 50001, they cannot be our suppliers. So that is also part of this, how we are forcing our suppliers then to make the change.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have a lot of other, so to say, certificates and standards as well. But I mean, that is the most important from this perspective.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, then moving on, I would like to try the audio of Peter, because I have a question for you, Peter. We'll try it and see if it works. You spoke about, you said in one of your slides that you're looking at alternative or complementary options for carbon pricing. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on that one. Let's see if it works. No, I'm not sure we have Peter in our session here. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on that question about alternatives to carbon pricing? I don't see anyone, no? Then I'll move on, Clemens. Do you have any other? Well, Hugo, you're raising your hand. Would you like to say something about that?
Yes, on the carbon pricing, maybe I'll just try to add something. Another dimension of the question is that it's a key opportunity for major economies to question their subsidies for fossil fuel at the moment, because demand has been lowering in terms of fossil fuel demand. It's time to revise the subsidies that exist for these sources of energy, to try to redirect those funds towards energy efficiency. So we see that there is a multiple benefits scheme that creates, because if we improve energy efficiency, we lower the demand in energy. Therefore, the demand for public funds to subsidize that energy, and allocating more resources to finance key aspects of our everyday life, health, education, and transport. So in the carbon taxing protocol and the incentives and the financial, let's say, strategy, always to have in mind that one of the key things that we don't touch enough is fossil fuels subsidies.
It's really true. And yeah, Maria, you would like to comment, please?
Yeah, I think this is a key question when you're talking about what policy instruments and what can you do. From the research perspective, we of course know that the most cost-efficient way is a global carbon tax, which is something that would add on to all sectors, and we will go, well, less carbon just because of that. But that is, I would say, not the way forward. It's not easy to get this accepted all over the place, and we need to get to the second best and a range of what is second best. So I'm just adding on that we have in Europe and in Sweden palette. We sometimes say we have a lot of different policies adding together. So a mix between subsidies and the penalties and the way forward. So we also see that the industry is stepping up. At least here in Sweden, we see the process industry from getting some policies for the fuel industry, getting into quotas that you need to have renewable energy into the fossil energy for the fuel, for the transport sector, etc. So you can have a lot of different combinations of policies, but I know pricing carbon would be most effective. And that just, maybe I can also reply something what we're talking about, if the COVID-19 has an effect on decarbonization or not. from the university perspective, we see that, of course, when we have seen less traveling and less also utilizing in the office spaces, that the energy is not that needed. So just by itself, the nature of the pandemic period, I think that so many organizations around the world has decarbonized by itself, but not from a certain policy.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, how are we doing on the questions, Clemens?
Yeah, we have a couple of additional questions, and one is, it says to IEA, but I would say it can also be answered by other groups of the panel. So Hanna, feel free to redirect. The question is whether it's just right now the right moment to ensure that we fast track the high cost, long lead time measures now, which will need to be implemented to reach the zero emissions by 2050. So I mean, are we at that? Are we at the turning point or even beyond the turning point to do that? And isn't it the right opportunity to do that now? That's the first question. Second question, which is specifically targeting SKF again. It's how are you? What's your customer view and customers' reaction actually to your sustainable sourcing approach? So how do they react to the approach you're taking?
Thank you. I think we'll start with the first one and let you answer, Hugo, first, and then the other ones get a chance to comment as well. So what do you think, Hugo?
Thank you for the question. So yes, I would, of course, definitely not like to have given this impression that long-term investment should not be done. Of course, in particular for actors such as SKF, please do. I encourage the industry to make long-term investment. Of course, what we are seeing is that the COVID will have a major economic impact on economies, but also on the private sector. This is why the analysis that I have been presenting focuses on really cost-effective measures, the one that will bring results in the next 3 years. So it's really to provide governments with analyses that will allow them to take actions now to create jobs, to meet economic needs, and of course to really start and fast track this clean energy transition. Of course, companies and long-term investment should be done, but we feel that priorities might be reorganized at the moment. And with just cost-effective measures, there are major savings to be done. And this is why we have focused on this. But of course, any actor out there, industry that wants to make long-term investment, please do, keeping in mind that the assets have a lifetime and that any window of refurbishment should be seized by governments to impact the industry.
Thank you. Joacim, any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree to what you say, Hugo, then. And if you take the next question, then the sustainable sourcing, I think you have to view it like this. I mean, some of the more mature customers and industries like automotive, I mean, they start to put a lot of requirements on us, not only our own manufacturing, but also how we handle our suppliers, so the full supply chain, so to say. Then it's very different industry by industry, but also region by region. Some, as automotive, especially in Europe, then is more mature. Other industries are not as mature as you can understand. And also then in some regions, I mean, these questions are still not up on the top of the agenda. So I think that is just to realize this is a journey that we have started, but especially automotive industry in Europe is very much focused on it and putting a lot of demand and requirements on us now. And others are not even starting to ask the question and so on. So it is a journey. And that is, as we said before, that is why regulations are important, because otherwise you will never get up to speed. If you have to convince each and every, so to say, customer, it's too heavy.
Yeah, and Maria, I guess this is something you've seen in the research since a long time as well, and now it's starting to happen in reality, or?
Yeah, we're always happy when we see research coming into realization, and we see definitely industry stepping up and taking responsibility and act towards sustainable development goals and energy efficiency. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you. So, Clemens, do we have another question?
Yeah, we still have questions. One is again for Maria, but also perhaps somehow relevant for Joacim, and it's the question of how we can the collaboration between industry and research. What are success factors for that, especially in the field of energy efficiency, energy transition? So perhaps you can elaborate a bit on that, because we've seen a lot of innovation is needed. A lot of technologies are not even there ready for the market, which we need for the 2050 decarbonization. So perhaps you can see what helps, but where are issues, where are problems you also see.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Will you start, Maria, and then we will take it?
I'd love to. Yes, what we have seen in the academia is that when we have competitors out in the industry, they are on a very good, an efficient way to collaborate when it comes to products that are not close to market entrance, but you have maybe more than 5 years towards. So the more innovative or the more challenge-driven the research is, the better the collaboration. So you have a benefit from the industry to share their long-term prognosis of if, for example, the vehicle industry, if you have an idea of you want to learn more about hydrogen or you want to learn more about electrification, it's so much easier to collaborate, so you can have large collaboration projects ongoing. But as soon as you come towards the one that you want to get on the market the next year or very soon, it gets more difficult, of course, with the collaboration, at least with these large collaboration projects. But still, we have possibility to join dual agreements with confidentiality as well. So in Sweden, I think in Gothenburg specifically, where I have my expertise in experience from, I see that the willingness to collaborate is large.
Yeah, and comments from Joacim on the success factors for collaboration?
No, I think we have a good collaboration already. I think what we have to remember as well is that it's more important than this kind of policy decision, like CO2 emission being zero. That will drive the, so to say, cooperation and deployment as well. So sometimes it's hard to plan everything in detail. It's more to set the overall scene and like this policy decision with them in place. Then things will start to happen. If it is more on a free will base, then it's much more difficult to deploy it. Because what we want to have is this global change. It's not just small steps. We want a big step, and then you have to have this kind of high-level policies, and they will drive a lot of the activities, deployment, and collaboration. I don't think the collaboration itself is a problem.
Thank you. And the last comment on this question, and the last comment on any questions, I think goes to you, Hugo. Any comments on the success factors and collaboration?
Yes. What we have seen is that there are interesting perspectives for collaboration between the industry and governments, with piloting in Sweden with the implementation of iron and steel plants that were produced without using fossil fuel. I mean, electricity only. However, on a more maybe challenging note, I feel that we have the resources, we have the skills, we have very talented people across the globe, in particular in industrialized countries. And I feel that we have a large potential of actions that we can do. There are, in my opinion, too few piloting projects at the moment compared to the amount of CO2 that these sectors represent, compared to the GDP, GVA that they represent as well. And we have, I think, everything at hand. We have the skills, as I was saying, we have resources. We have the ambition. I think we need to make these all coincide into one single spot as to produce a fire as a magnifying glass, trying to focus all these beams on one single dot to produce something. And I think we don't have that much time, and we are facing challenges today that will allow us to maybe rethink the way we go forward. So counting on our audience to take action as well, and we'll be providing as much support as we can across economies emerging and emerged.
Mm. Yeah, and I think this really highlights the importance of this conference when we bring together industry, academy, and policymakers. I hand over to you, Agneta, to close this session.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you all for this very interesting session with the very interesting presentations and also the discussion. And this is really highlighting what we all are talking about, that we need a mutual understanding, and we need to create the collaborations, and we need also the policies that drives us in the direction we are heading for, and we need to focus to keep on working and increase energy efficiency. So thank you for this session, and please join the other sessions now, and I wish you a wonderful couple of days here at the conference. Thank you for now.